this is Bobby Rimpey from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rimpey. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you are ready to take part in the show this evening, you have a phone call or an email you want to send, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening coming up in about 12 minutes from now. He is one of the top men over at Pits and Spits. He has been on the show once before, and we will catch up with him on the business side of Pits and Spits. Also, we will be talking about a new product that is coming to market. We'll be joined by none other than Ryan Zboril, pitsandspits.com, the website, if you want to hit it up quickly before he jumps on board. So looking forward to catching up with Ryan after Ryan. We will be joined at 35 past the first hour by second-time guest as well, Robert F. Moss, or should I say Dr. Robert F. Moss. You can find him at robertfmoss.com. He is the BBQ Editor for Southern Living magazine, amongst other things that he writes, obviously for the website as well, and he has cue sheets, so plenty of written material that you can get both in book form and on the internet. For Robert Moss, we're going to be talking about a barbecue topic that perhaps people have just lost conversation on, unless you are specifically in Kentucky, and then I believe it breaks down even further into certain sections of Kentucky. If you're a barbecue fan or a lover like me, you already know what I'm talking about. And that, of course, is the great barbecue meat of mutton. Who doesn't love a good mutton? I've never had mutton before. I believe there were mutton sandwiches at the truck show in Louisville when I used to go to that a number of years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if you can believe it. I said what? 20 years ago? When I was just a young buck coming out of Ohio University. But we will talk about mutton amongst some other things. So if you've always wanted to get the backstory of mutton, also, Robert is going to be taking Meathead to task, as we had talked about earlier this month, actually, with Meathead, St. Patrick's Day, corned beef, pastrami. And then Meathead said, hey, if I would make the claim that Katz's Deli is indeed the oldest continuously operating barbecue restaurant, would you challenge me? Because it would be hard to, because they've been smoking pastrami or corned beef to make it pastrami for however long it had been. Easily the longest, according to Meathead. Robert Moss will be taking Meathead to task on this subject this evening. So we'll see what he's come up with, and that'll close out the first hour. And then we will join the second hour, and would you believe, after incredible technical difficulties on my end, I'm not sure exactly what the deal was, she was gracious enough to back up immediately the following week That, of course, is the pitmaster of Stress Relief Barbecue, Sandy Brown, and the reigning SCA points champ of 2020. So we missed out on a lot of great information just because we were hurtling through a microphone dying. Maybe there were thunderstorms. Maybe there was some bad internet. Who knows what the case. Internet gremlins abound last week. And I asked Sandy offline if she would come back on next week because I had an opening. And she said, absolutely. Always want to talk SCA and get through some other items that that I was outlining to get to Sandy with. And she said, yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and do it. So I took a 14-minute sound check with her earlier this morning without issue. Of that, of course, what we've learned on that means absolutely nothing. However, we have put our best feet forward in hopes of generating a great 14 past the second hour, and then depending on how the information is disseminated, might hold her over into a little bit of that 35 past the second hour segment as well. So if you're a fan of Sandy Brown, and who isn't, make sure that you are locked in for the better part of the second hour, as there'll be a lot of great steak information. Steak continuing to go crazy. In fact, the great city of Utah's embedded correspondent, Rusty Monson, went out to Bakersfield, California to compete in SCA, did Sear Revolution, summarily finished somewhere near last. He's not hitting in California. That's unfortunate. But I am fully prepared for any embedded correspondent to take place or part in a Steak Cook-Off Association event, do the Sear, win it, and you got to win. You can't come in second place. You have to win it, and I will reimburse their entry fee. That is a standing offer here in 2021. And as you listened last week, Rusty said that there are a number of people out there. I don't even know what that means. That's hard to quantify. As we had mentioned, if you get to 500 events over the course of the year, how many people are actually turning in a seared steak? If it's not going to be borderline momentous amount, it's going to be tough for the judges to see and get used to. We'll talk to Sandy about that as well. Seared steak, how that might work, and if there's opportunity for that, if you really want to win or not, or if that's kind of a gimmick at this point, 7 years into an SCA lifespan. There you have it, 216-220-0966 or Greg at the BBQ Central Show. If you want to get a hold of me, Ryan Zboril, Robert F. Moss, and Sandy Brown will be joining me here this evening during the course of the show. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show, Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show for two forms of a live video feed. You can also get one over at YouTube /RD Rempe for the third version of that. Let me give you a quick programming note from last week. If you won Wing Dust last week, they will go ahead and hit the mail tomorrow. So don't start sending me emails asking me if it was just a joke or if I'm really an a-hole. Obviously, yes, I am an a-hole. Nevertheless, your Wing Dust of my choosing will hit the mail tomorrow, I promise. Also, some breaking news.
A BBQ Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city breaking the most breaking news whenever it breaks across the country, nay, the world. Programming note as well, on April 27th will mark the debut appearance of none other than the Chuck Wagon Cook himself, Kent Rollins. That's right. We will pass along thanks and praise, and we say that, of course, with, oh boy, I got it right off. We say that, of course, with peace and love.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
That's right. We say it with peace and love to Meathead for finding the workaround for me so I didn't have to book through Skeeter. But Kent Rollins will be in on 427, and we're looking forward to that conversation. Also, a little bit of breaking news from the barbecue cookbook genre. That is the part of the year that we're living in right now. Myron Mixon has a new keto barbecue.
What?
Keto barbecue cookbook ready to hit Amazon or ship from Amazon May 11th, 2021. He has stated that he has lost well over 100 pounds doing this keto lifestyle. And now he is ready to bring it to the masses. So be on the lookout if you're into that. Listener feedback. Tony in New York writes, Greg, I was listening to the Embedded Correspondence segment this weekend, and this should be all the proof you need to show how wrong you are about not liking onions. All three of your panel members love onions. Sam, the cooking guy, loves onions. The cooking spectrum of these four gentlemen are well represented and wide-ranging. Surely you must see the folly in your ways at this point. Tony, thanks for writing in. And let me ask you something. What are you, 80? 0 people use the word folly anymore. You just worry about the days that you have left on this earth, Tony, and worry no more about my outright disdain for onions, okay? As I said in the EC segment, I want to like onions with every fiber of my being. It would be an easier life for me in many respects. However, as often as I have tried, they just don't like me back. I'm willing to change. The onions, however, unrelenting, not willing to change at all. There has to be compromise somewhere, and until those onions come to the table with real intent to compromise, I feel we will remain at an impasse. There's no doubt about it. Let me talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits before we get to Pits and Spits. That being Ryan. Since 1983, handcrafting smokers and grills in Houston, Texas. In that time, establishing itself as a premier brand and high-quality offset, and recently pellet cookers. Setting itself apart by using heavy 7 and 10 gauge steel in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the unit. A 304 stainless roll top lid, front shelf on every single smoker. Why does it matter? Well, by using higher quality materials, you can reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. And by providing a fully welded smoker, you have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel, or that grill rattling apart as you move it through the backyard. You know you're going to do that. And by using 304 stainless, you're getting an heirloom quality product you can pass down to your kids. And where some companies focus on being a low-cost provider, Pits and Bits focuses on craftsmanship, using quality materials. Are there cheaper ways to make these things? Yes! But they don't like tack welds, cheap stainless, electronics that you can't trust, the list goes on. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control of the design and standards. Not something you find brought in from overseas. Their steel suppliers supply material to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so you know they're going to perform in all conditions, like here in Cleveland. Their controllers actually are made right here in the States as well. They have unimpeded transparency into the programming. Pits and Spits has a dealer network across the country, but if there's one near you, give Coy a call in the shop at 844-650-6250. Whether you're a backyard grill master looking to cook steaks for the family or a competitive barbecuer smoking 50 racks of ribs, Pits and Spits has a product for you. You can check out all their products at the website Pits and Spits, all spelled out, pitsandspits.com, or see their pits in the wild across social media with their handle at Pits and Spits. That is also spelled out. And we'll be back with Pits and Spits. Ryan for Pits and Spits. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, creators of automatic pit temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans, and accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit them at bbqguru.com for more info, or call them at 800-288-GURU. The BBQ Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. Central Lights, who loves grills and smokers? We do! That's right, we love them so much that most of us have many of them in our backyards, porches, and cement patios as we speak. My next guest tonight makes some of the best of both of those units, premier units actually on the market right now. So let's go ahead and race to the hotline. And welcome back, friend of the show, Ryan Zboril from Pits and Spits. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, man. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. Appreciate you making time for us tonight, Ryan. So before we get into talking about some Pits and Spits business, I've been taking a lot of heat recently about, I've called it I've been called an anti-onionite. I want to love onions a lot, and I just can't get down with them. So I want to ask you right off the bat, are you a onion guy? And if so, what do you find attractive about them?
I do like onions, different kinds and kind of in different formats. I mean, I like the red onions in certain kind of salads. I like white onions when they're, sometimes on a burger. I like the sweeter onions, like yellow onions and like Vidalia and those kind when they're either grilled or kind of worked into a dish. So I'd say I don't know that I'm an onion-ophile or whatever, however that would be phrased, but I'm definitely I'm a supporter. And I also respect them because they can be kind of found in the wild, and it's kind of a weird thing that grows in the ground that it can be additive. I mean, I don't think it's a central dish, but can definitely be a nice supporting player. Ryan
Zboril joining us here on the show, and he is an onionite, and unabashed, no doubt about it. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit of Pits and Spits business. Anyone selling cookers last year was slammed with orders, whether it was cookers or accessories or pretty much even some of the food service folks saw, at least a okay year, probably nothing that they had been used to years past, having to make adjustments and pivots and so forth. But anybody else, it was fuel, it was cookers, it was anything else. People were just slammed with orders. So how did 2020 close out with you guys?
2020 was good for us. I think we kind of had already prepared ourselves for some growth and we're expecting to see an uptick. And so any of the kind of unintended benefits from COVID or the shutdowns or stimulus checks or whatever, people staying at home, whatever angle that came our way, I think we were in a pretty good spot for it. It hit us. We were not expecting it to play to our favor. I know this time last year was the first time in the, I guess now 7 years, so at that time 6 years that I've owned the company, that we cut hours to 32 hours for 1 week. And things actually were that week, things ended up being so busy. We said, okay, let's go back to 40. And about a month or two after that, we've been basically running at 48 to 56 hours since then, just to make sure our guys are, we kind of have a saying in our family about, make hay while the sun shines. And so we're really trying to take advantage of that, making sure we're taking care of our guys and that we are letting them also, reap the benefits of kind of some increased demand, whether that be through an increased marketing budget or effort or the shutdown. So,
Ryan, when you look at closing out the first quarter here of 2021, a lot more of the same, or are you in a position where you're running? So let me back up this question here for a second. In heavy-duty truck sales right now, which is what I do during the day, we went from 0 to 100 in 2 months. I was expecting to be pretty flat. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people were ordering 20 trucks, 40 trucks. It was ridiculous. Right. Peterbilt as a whole is taking in 800 or 900 truck orders a day, which builds out the schedule, 3 days every day for production. Inherently, there's going to be component issues and widget issues. And, everybody that's feeding the big manufacturer, those being suppliers, might not be able to meet that demand. Are you guys experiencing anything like that, where if I called in to order a Pits and Spits right now, there could be an added delay over and above whatever it would normally be?
So we saw some of that last year, and a lot of that was due to some of our suppliers and vendors, early on when people didn't really know how to staff appropriately or how to, testing was not nearly as accessible back then. So, we may see a supplier who had a COVID case in the office. So they are cut way back for 10 days or 14 days, or someone, certain components coming kind of second and third tier vendors, right? Guys we're not directly tied to, but our vendors purchase from may have some delays. And so we did see some of that last year, but what we really tried to focus on was investing in inventory through that process, right? And saying, okay, if we are short now, we don't think that this is a temporary bump. We think that we have kind of earned our place in the marketplace. And so maybe some of our growth has been accelerated because of people staying at home and the stimulus checks, perhaps. I don't really know that our customers are necessarily kind of in that on the receiving end of that. But we used all of that as an opportunity to say, look, let's buy 3, 4, 5, 6 months of inventory, as opposed to taking a just-in-time approach, which is, that's really a position a lot of smaller businesses get caught in, right? The working capital issue. And we said, let's just keep reinvesting in the business. If it's controllers, if we saw a hiccup with controllers, well, let's place a bigger order and let's say we'll carry that, right? Like don't ship it to us, over 3 or 4 shipments. We'll take all 1,000 of them right now. And we'll hold on to that. Same with our laser cut parts from some of our processors here in Houston. We are seeing some indication of continued tightening in the steel markets. Us specifically using so much stainless in our products, there are some mills here in the States that have either I don't know if they've mothballed them or completely shut them down, some of their 304 stainless lines. But again, I think it's a near-term issue. We're doing what we can, and we're eating a lot of that increased cost and just kind of swimming through it because we think over 6 to 12 months, hopefully that's the longest horizon, that it will fix itself and markets will be rational. And if prices are going to double the way they have over the past 6 months, well, then that would tell me someone's going to bring another line on, or there's going to be another option out there, or at least some form of stability, at least, is kind of what we're looking for.
At what point do you have to look at making some kind of a price adjustment so it's not just pits and spits eating it only, you're having other people share in that cost?
So we just did that, as a lot of other manufacturers did as well. We did that March 1st, and it was less than 10% increase, right? And so it was a little under a dollar for dollar, increase that we've seen. And for us, I would of course love to pass more of that cost on, but I don't want to price ourselves out of the market. And I try to be, have a long-term view and say, look, let's not focus on last year's volume. Let's focus on where we want to be this year with volume, and in 3, 4, 5 years in volume. And so if that means that we've got to leave a little bit more on the table now, we're okay with that. And we can always, I think going up increasing your prices is easier said than done. At least, when I think about that, I really say, look, there's some thresholds that I really don't want our products being over that price point for several reasons. And one of them is just, accessibility to a customer base, but then also, when you start getting into the realm of the $10,000 gas grill guys, I mean, that's kind of a different animal, and I love those products. I think they're engineered beautifully and they've done amazing work, but that's just not really a world we don't want to be known as like the expensive pellet grill guys. We want to be priced where our quality is, but we don't want to just be expensive just for the sake of being expensive.
When you look through this year, potentially into next year, I mean, any business guy would sit here and tell you that from last year's experience rolling into this year, it can't always be like this. Certainly you would want to, be able to double, triple, quadruple, whatever it is for companies' sales each and every year, and then be able to bank and predict next year's sales off of that. Where do you see it flattening out?
That's kind of a tough question to answer. And the reason I say that is I think that you can approach growth in a couple of different ways, right? And one of them is what we saw, from 19 to 20, which is our core product set really didn't change, right? We had the Maverick line, which we did start selling more of our stainless Mavericks, but that's pretty much within our current core product set. And so I kind of always operate under the assumption of, well, what if we just have kind of a standard, a finance class inflation number type growth, right? So 3% growth. So we sell a few more grills this year. Well, how do we grow? Well, the answer to that is new products or new markets or new dealers. Of those three that I can control, new products is really where we try and focus our growth. And so that's where we try and drive growth as opposed to kind of letting growth come to us.
Brian Zboril joining us here on the show. Pitsandspits.com is the website, all spelled out, pitsandspits.com if you want to check it out as we're talking. So let's go ahead and talk about one of those new products, and that is a segment of the industry that is becoming more and more popular. We've seen the evolution and the outright popularity growth of pellet cookers here over the last 5, 6, 7 years, especially over the last couple of years. It's been absolutely dynamic. And coupled with that are portable pellet cookers. Green Mountain Grill has one with Davy Crockett. Traeger has one with that Ranger, whatever they're calling it. It looks like a suitcase. And now Pits and Spits has something called the Rendezvous, which I am a huge fan of the name, of course. But talk to us a little bit about your particular model and the genesis of it, how you get it to market, and what we can expect from it.
Yeah, so the Rendezvous, we named it that just because that's an old term they used kind of in the a few hundred years ago, back in kind of the mountain man, settler type days, about just means people meeting together at kind of a designated time and place. And that typically meant out in the wilderness somewhere. So I think camping, I think at someone's ranch. I don't really think, in kind of a, luxurious backyard somewhere. So I thought it was really fitting for what we're trying to really achieve with this product. This is something that we have kicked around in idea form for probably 4 years. This actually was something we talked about internally before any of our, upright Maverick pellet grills, the Meat Locker, some of our more commercial products came out. The real delay was just kind of being thoughtful in how we design it from a production and a functionality standpoint. And so that took us a while, a few iterations. We've got a whole bunch of random prototypes sitting around the shop in different stages of like, oh, maybe we'll do something with that one day. But we finally got to a point where we're really happy with the construction, the design, the ability to make it quickly in a cost-effective manner so that it won't be outrageously priced. But then also making in a format that's light enough to easily load in the back of your truck for just one person, or two people can certainly do it. So it's going to be, if you were to look at our website now, you would see it has kind of the standard carbon steel body and legs with the stainless steel lid. That has actually been changed about, I think it was the night we took the photos. I was sitting on my couch kind of just thinking through some logistics stuff and some paint and where we can save and where we can add value for our customers. And we landed on redesigning certain portions of it, like the legs. And now it's going to be that model will be full stainless at that same price. So it's going to be full stainless, American made 304, and actually have a laser cut grate. And it's still going to be $1,200, and it'll still be right around that 90 pound mark. And so we're really excited about that. It took a long time, but I'm really happy. I wish we could have gotten it to market 2 years ago, but I think rushing it, we would have skipped some of these things. And I'm really happy with where we landed. So we expect to be shipping to dealers at the end of April.
All right, end of April. So be on the lookout for that. And then again, a $1,200 price tag. Do you take in any type of like confidential circle of experts and pass it around and say, here, knock it around and let me know what you think, or tell us about shape, blah, blah, blah. Who are these experts? You would care to regale us with names?
Typically, they end up being people that are either are our dealers or work at our dealers, just because they have a really good pulse in the market. These guys cook a lot, and they're acquainted with our products and brand already. So they're able to give us, really constructive and productive feedback. And they also know that, like, if you tell me something and it's kind of half-cocked idea or feedback, like I'm not going to take it well. So if you can give me like a full download on your thoughts, and I'll say, okay, that totally makes sense. Like that's something I didn't think about.
When you look at price point, $1,200, I could sit here and play devil's advocate and say, well, I can get a full-size unit for $1,200 from some other manufacturer. So why would somebody not want to get sticker shock on a portable unit such as this?
Well, so you're going to be buying this for build quality, and it's American made, right? I mean, I think there may be one other. We have one other competitor that's going to be in the American made market that's also has a travel grill. I'm kind of blanking on their price point right now.
Is that Mac?
But this is Smokin' Brothers.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are the guys that come to mind, and I should know what their price point is. So I hope Ryan's not watching this because I'm going to be embarrassed next time I talk to him if I forgot it. But it kind of if you want the quality and you want the craftsmanship and you want the build and you want the pride in your product, that's just kind of what it costs, right? And it's also an incredibly versatile grill. This is meant to be something that can be used on your balcony, in your patio home. Kind of if you're an empty nester, you can do one brisket on it, a couple of extra ribs. But it's also a great grill. So it's with being in a package that small, it gets really hot really fast. So this is going to be primarily a fantastic grill because it can get so hot so fast, but it also is a great smoker.
So you can go to the website right now and add your email address to join wait list, and then do you get notified and you would buy it straight from you, or will it be eventually disseminated to the dealer network where they would have to buy it?
It's going to be both. So it's going to be kind of how we handle our product set now, so that if there's not a dealer around you, or if your dealer is not going to carry the Rendezvous for whatever reason, we'd be more than happy to work directly with you.
All right. Anything else new that is at least in the hopper that might see light of day by the end of 2021, or is this the one that you're going to be focusing on this year?
We do have another kind of a spin-off of the Rendezvous that's going to be more in the 850 size, and it's going to be a lower price point. And again, it's still going to be American made. The point of that is to make our brand more accessible, especially now in a time of rising steel prices where things just cost more, and we say, okay, well, look, let's think about where we can control our costs and how we can rethink our product and make it a more accessible brand. And we want people across the board to be able to buy our products. And so we don't want our 850, which is I think it's 1850 now. That it's a great grill and it's a great entry grill, but if we can get something down lower than that, we would love to have that. And we think that that's going to get a lot of people. I mean, look, it's been a really weird 18 months. And I think if you can be competitive with an American made product that is priced similarly to some of the imported products out there, I think it's going to give us a good shot at, getting some people's eyes on it, at least they'll be thinking about it.
No doubt about it. So if you are in the market for a new pellet cooker that you can take with you on camping trips or the upcoming tailgate season or all of the above, get on over to Pits and Spits, join the wait list, and be notified when it is ready. We are talking with the owner of Pits and Spits, Ryan Zboril. Ryan, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it. There he is. Ryan Zboril from Pits and Spits. So go on over to pitsandspits.com and sign up for the Rendezvous. Is that how you say it? Rendezvous. And then be on the lookout for yet another new cooker coming. There's some people in the instant chat like Bob Witt saying that he can't wait to get his hands on his Pits and Spits cooker that he just recently ordered. Bob, bone out a few more guilders and sign up for that Rendezvous. You'll love it. All right, we thank Ryan again from Pits and Spits. Pitsandspits.com, the website. I'll talk to you quickly about Certified Angus Beef and their hashtag restaurant challenge. Are you taking part in that yet? I've talked to you about it for the last couple weeks. Do you want a chance to win a $100 gift card? Very simple. Go to your favorite restaurant, dine in, if you can do that safely, or carry it out. If you can do neither of those, buy some gift cards to give away. And then, get the gift cards home or the food home, or if you're eating in, get it out on the table, get out the camera because we're foodies. We love to take cameras. We love to take pictures of our food, and then put it on your social media. Be sure to tag the facility that you are at, whatever that restaurant's name is, and then use the hashtag restaurant challenge. Also, leave a positive comment and ratings, or a 5-star rating if you can do that. Thank the staff, of course. Now, when you tag the restaurant that you're in, that now engages Certified Angus Beef to put them in the drawing, where that business could win $2,500 as a bonus tip to disseminate through the staff there. So not only do you have a chance to win a $100 gift card, and there's 10 gift cards awarded each week, so it's not just like one a week. You get an opportunity to win up to one, but there's 10 given every week. So again, use the hashtag restaurant challenge. Go to your favorite restaurant, take pictures of the food, tell the staff how great they are. Again, hashtag restaurant challenge, then tag the restaurant that you're at. You could win $100. They have the opportunity of winning $2,500. The challenge is on. It's clear. Challenge.certifiedangusbeef.com. Do something nice for the local restaurants around your neck of the woods. We're back with Robert Moss right after this. Stick around.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers, like Pits and Spits, like Green Mountain Grills, like Traeger's, like all those other ones. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information or to purchase. That's COOKIN, cookinpellets.com. And you can also purchase from Amazon.com as well. My next guest is the contributing barbecue editor for Southern Living Magazine, friend of the show. And we welcome him back. It is Robert Moss. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Greg. How's it going?
I am doing absolutely spectacular. Appreciate you making time for the show.
Oh, sure thing.
We have some topics to get to tonight. Before we do that, because I asked Ryan right off the bat, outside of the box here, Onion fan, yes or no?
Yes. Big onion fan.
In all formats? Raw, mid-cook, like major cook, caramelize, everything in between?
Yeah.
Really?
Caramelized. Use them in just about everything.
Wow.
Anything from regular onions to green onions to little, all the little cipollini onions and all the fancy things.
Complete onionite over there in South Carolina.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you find that you care about American-made grills? Is that something that matters to you?
It doesn't matter. Like, it's not like, something I think I lay awake at night worrying about. But in general, I think I'd probably err on the side of preferring an American-made grill, at least from an American company.
Whatever happened to lamb and mutton?
That is a good question.
Yeah.
I think I heard you say at the top that if you've never had barbecued mutton.
No, I mean, I used to go to the truck show in Louisville, Kentucky many years ago, and I did that for 5 or 6 year stint. And it was, I think, part of the food. There might have been a food trailer outside of the actual exposition center that was doing. So I'd seen it. There might have been some lamb sandwiches there. They also had pork chop sandwiches, I think, in Louisville. So I got a couple of those, but it was just mostly run-of-the-mill food there and waiting to get to the bar on the work expense account to do some damage later on in the evening. But I've always put mutton and Kentucky together, but I don't want to sit there and pigeonhole it when it could have been a lot more pervasive in the past.
In the past, it definitely was. I mean, these days, if you want barbecue mutton, you pretty much have to go to Kentucky, and not just to Kentucky, but to like sort of northwestern Kentucky, the counties up there around Owensboro. You can get a little bit of it in Louisville these days. For a long time, it was unknown there as well. But that wasn't the case back before World War II. Mutton and lamb were two of the most common barbecue meats. In fact, I was really surprised doing all of the research for my book. I kept turning up all these early barbecue stands and restaurants in South Carolina and Georgia and Virginia, all over the place, and almost all of them would have lamb on the menu, and many would have mutton. It was just, which is just, lamb being a sheep that's a year or younger, and mutton being an older sheep, but super common barbecue meat. And then it just sort of disappeared after World War II. It was actually very huge in Texas. In fact, probably historically, you see a lot more mutton barbecue in Texas than you would in Kentucky up until about the 50s or 60s, when all of a sudden just down it goes.
What do we accredit the downturn in popularity? Not to diverge here into an incredibly bizarre and potentially taboo topic, but for any number of years prior to 1975, when it was really kind of poo-pooed on, America ate horse. It was, as you go through and do a lot of studying, there's a preference of horse. It was a lot more economical, especially when times were bad. You can go in many different countries these days, France, Italy, just to name a few, Germany, I believe, too, where you can go and it's widely accepted to eat. But here you get the stink eye. I've been made a grassroots movement of horse meat, whatever year it is, and a lot of people give me shit about it. But, it was one of those things where somehow things changed with horse. Okay, we'll set that aside. So somehow things changed with mutton and to a degree lamb, although I think between the two, lamb is still pretty popular. But what happened to its overwhelming popularity, and where did it go?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, because I'd heard you talk about horse on previous shows, I was looking before I came on to see if I could turn up, was horse a barbecue meat? But I've not been able to find any serious accounts of a horse barbecue, just some sarcastic ones from back in the early 20th century. But when it comes to lamb and mutton, lamb was a very, and sheep were very popular for barbecue, but they weren't really popular meats in America compared to places like England and Australia or New Zealand, where in New Zealand in the 1920s, I found some stats, they were eating 85 pounds of mutton and lamb per capita per year. So that's like a quarter pound per day. Yeah, just a huge amount, because that's all they grew apparently was sheep down in New Zealand. It's really hard to figure out. You'll hear some strange stories about mutton. One of the most common is that of all the GIs went off to World War II, and in their rations, they got a bunch of Australian mutton, canned mutton, and hated it. And then when they came back, they refused to eat it. And then, mutton fell off a cliff. That's not true. In fact, most of the time any story you hear about GIs coming back from World War II or Civil War soldiers coming back from war with some kind of food preference, those are almost always just myths. Best I could tell, it's really a shift in agriculture that really drove mutton down. Unlike other things, beef and pork and things like that, sheep and particularly mutton were always very closely tied to wool production. So the same sheep that you're shearing for wool is what would become mutton. And what would happen is, as the price of wool went up and down, farmers would add to their herds and then remove from their herds. So when it's time to cull sheep from the herds, all of a sudden you got a lot of mutton that would go on the market, which is one of the reasons I think it was a popular barbecue meat. It was something that farmers would take the old sheep they're ready to get out of the herd and donate it to the barbecue. But that sort of made the price real unstable. And then after World War II, when a lot of ranchers had to choose between raising cattle and raising sheep, they, especially in Texas, which used to raise a ton of sheep, they tended to go for cattle. Prices more stable, didn't need near as much labor to care for, as much less expensive. And you sort of see, as America's coming back after the war and they're getting out of rationing and they're sort of re-engineering the agricultural system, pork and beef get consumed in higher numbers, larger herds. It becomes much more of an industrialized industry, becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Whereas lamb and mutton remain specialty products, they remain expensive. Lamb becomes associated as like a sort of fancy, luxury meat, and then mutton just sort of disappears altogether because it's just not. There's very, very little of it. People forget about it, and I think when it comes to barbecue restaurants and things like that, I just don't think it was a practical cut to serve anymore, or practical meat to serve when beef was getting cheaper and cheaper as they started introducing boxed beef and all that kind of stuff.
How do you describe the flavor profiles of whatever good mutton would be compared to lamb. I'll give you my introduction to lamb here in a second, but how do you describe the difference between the two? And does that affect popularity as well?
I don't know that it does. I think there's so little mutton out there that it's not like people eat a lot of it. And I don't know that I'm trying to think. The only time I've ever had just non-barbecue mutton, like just roasted mutton, was in London years ago at a restaurant. It was not great, but it was like a typical British kind of restaurant in the 90s, early 2000s, very plain, no sauce. And so it was a strong flavor for sure, just like lamb is. Though I think mutton probably doesn't have quite the sharp bite to it. It has more of a rich flavor. But when you barbecue it with the smoke and you mix it with a real tangy, vinegary sauce like they do in Kentucky, something about that combination is just splendid. So I absolutely love a good plate of like either sliced mutton, or they do this thing up in just a couple places up in Kentucky that they call chipped mutton, where they take, I think, some of the leftover mutton, chop up rind, sort of like you might do a chopped beef sandwich, mix it with a bunch of that tangy sauce, put it on rye bread with onions and pickles. You can probably leave the onions off for you. But it's a great combination. You get the crunch, you get all that, the flavor. It's really a fantastic sandwich.
I think 2 years ago, I was with my oldest daughter down in Louisville. I was staying over at the owner of the Pit Barrel Cookers house. They were just outside of wherever the exposition center there over by the airport. And they said, yeah, come down. You can stay with us. Don't worry about the hotel. And the first night down there, I had brought in some Snake River Farms steaks that we cooked that first night. And then in addition, his kids, and they were, I think, both under 10. I mean, it's not like they were 13, 14, young kids, said that they wanted to have lamb because they had done something exceptional during the day. That was going to be the reward. And I told Noah Glanville, I said, well, I'd never had lamb before in my life. And he said, oh, you're in for a treat. Lamb doesn't taste any better than when it comes off the pit barrel cooker. Of course, what else is he going to say? And he said, you'll be surprised how much you like it. And I said, I'm not too much of a risk taker, especially with words like lamb. And he said, well, just shut up and we're going to cook it. It's going to be great. I'm telling you, he took that rack off, cut, a couple of those bones off, and he said, just shut up, put this in your mouth. Your life is going to change forever. I took that first bite, and I'm telling you, the taste, the flavor, that subtle fattiness, the rub that he was using, the flavor profile that the charcoal and that pit barrel cooker did impart, it was magic. And I probably ate 5 or 6 chops and was kind of just looking around to see if anybody else was going to be coming, because I was just going to eat them. If nobody else was going to eat them, I was just going to keep eating them. And I became an immediate fan. But I would say that even when I went to Costco or BJ's Wholesale Club where I can get them, it is damn near $30 for a 2-pound rack of lamb. And as you said, it kind of, sure. It brings it up to a different level. So then I'm always like, do I want to spend the money on that? Or because that's probably going to be more for me or a couple of my other kids and not everybody in the house. When if I had to spend that money for everybody, it's going to be steak of some sort or a roast or something a little bit more particular like we're talking about here. So is there a comeback on the horizon, or is there a comeback currently for lamb and mutton?
I think there is a comeback currently going on. I used to be, you could almost count on one hand places, with the barbecue places that serve lamb, and you just never even really saw it on restaurant menus and everything else. But I think it's coming back. I think a lot of pit masters are getting interested in it again. You see, especially some of American barbecue is now fusing with international flavors from all over. So Middle Eastern flavors, Mexican flavors, barbacoa being a traditional meat for lamb and traditional meat in the Middle East. So those are coming together nicely. You can find a lot of lamb tacos these days if you go to some of the craft places, particularly in Texas, seems to be bringing it back a good bit. So I think as people, you got all these guys sort of piling back into the barbecue world and cooking on wood and getting real serious about it. I think they're now starting to look for ways to differentiate themselves, because everybody has brisket and ribs and pork. So I think you're going to see a lot more lamb pop up in the next 5 years. I'd put my money on it. So I'm definitely bullish on the lamb.
We're talking with Robert Moss, robertfmoss.com, his website. You can also sign up for the Q sheet over there as well. Last topic here tonight, Robert, and this is taking one of my regular guests to task here to a bit. So earlier in the month, we were talking with Meathead from AmazingRibs.com about pastrami and corned beef, and he said that he could make an argument that Katz's Deli in New York City is easily the longest continuously run barbecue restaurant because they've been doing it for so long, but you might have a counterpoint opinion on that.
Yep. Well, I'll preface this by saying I absolutely love Katz's. In fact, I have a Katz's cutting board that my wife got me for my birthday that is a piece of their old counter. They will, when they have to redo the counters, they'll carve them up into cutting boards. And it showed up in the box smelling like pickles and all the stuff that had been soaking in it. It was clean, but they've been soaking in it for years. So I'm absolutely a huge fan of Katz. My first time I went there and had the pastrami is one of those life-changing moments. I did a piece about 5 years ago or so for Serious Eats where I dug into the history of pastrami. And actually, Stephen Rachland was on just recently, and he did a really good job with the history of pastrami. At least, everything that he said is basically pretty much what I had turned up as well when I was researching it. But I did find something really interesting about Katz as I was doing that. And so I don't want to take Meathead to task, because if you ask, well, Katz is, they say they've been in business since 1888. Does that make them the oldest meat smoking, continuously run meat smoking restaurant, and therefore oldest barbecue joint? You probably would say, yeah, that 1888. What's older than that? Well, what I found out was sort of interesting. The story has always been that Katz's was actually not founded by the Katz family. It was founded by the Icelands, two brothers named, I think, Morris and Hyman Iceland, spelled like the country, Iceland. And then Katz bought in a little bit later on and eventually took it over. The story is that they came to the U.S. and founded Iceland's Deli in 1888. And then in 1903, Willie Katz became a partner. And then in 1910, he and another Katz came in and they bought out the Icelands. And from there on out, it was Katz's Deli. The only issue with that is it's pretty clear from all the records that in 1888, Morris and Hyman Iceland would have been about 11 and maybe 6 years old. So a little bit young to be founding a restaurant. And all the records show their immigration, that they both arrived in 1902. So they weren't even in the country till then. Best I can tell, looking at city directories and things, is that Hyman Iceland was working in some restaurants up until about 1910. And then all of a sudden in 1911, he shows up as Hyman Iceland Delicatessen. And then within the same year, Willie Katz buys in, it becomes Iceland and Katz. And then around 1917 or so, it becomes Katz's. So that puts Katz's probably at 1911, not 1888. Still pretty good. I mean, it's over a century old. It's one of the first, and longest running delis in New York. So not bad, but it does bring it up into the 20th century and out of the 19th.
So still the longest though, regardless?
No. So now you got to ask, okay, so what might be older than that?
Yes.
And actually was on the phone with Daniel Vaughn today.
Who?
Sort of Daniel Vaughn of Texas Monthly.
Never heard.
My arch nemesis, the other barbecue editor.
Yes.
But we're actually really good friends, and he does a lot of great historical research, particularly in the Texas barbecue. And so we're trying to nail it down. I think between the two of us, we sort of agree that it's either Southside Market in, I want to say Elgin because it's Elgin, South Carolina, but I think they call it Elgin in Texas.
Yeah, Elgin, Texas.
Texas. And then Kreitz is in Lockhart. And it's a little bit hard to tell because it's not exactly clear when Southside Market opened. The story that the family has is that it wasn't original. It was several families back, but the founders founded it in 1886. But there's no real historical record of that. We know that it was probably in business by at least 1908, which is when it was purchased by another guy named I can't remember his name, like Lee Williams, I think his name was. So somewhere around the early 20th century. Now, Kreitz probably has a better record. Certainly, is more of a historical record. Kreitz Market for sure was opened in 1900 under that name, but is actually the market itself was opened in 1875 by a guy named Jesse Swearingen. And that's pretty well documented. Though what's not clear is that it was a meat market. It's not clear if he barbecued or not. There's this 1930 article from the Lockhart newspaper that's it's celebrating the 30th anniversary of Kreitz Market. And it says that S.B. Swearingen, the son of Jesse Swearingen, was perhaps the first man in Lockhart to begin the regular sale of barbecued meats. So that had to be before 1900. Pretty well established is that sometime in the probably 1890s, they were selling, barbecue in the business that later became Kreitz Market. So it's either between Southside Market and Kreitz, and it gets a little murky. But I think in either case, it's pretty clear that both of them were in business and selling smoked meats before Katz's was
It could be 10 to 20 years potentially before Katz even got into it. So, wow. Shattering
it gets murky. Yeah, when you try to get back into there's not great records and a lot of family stories.
Yeah, of course. And shaking the very foundations of Meathead's take that Katz's is the oldest continuously run barbecue joint. So it'll be interesting to hear what Meathead has to say about that. In the meantime, you can sign up for the Q Sheet. RobertFmoss.com is the place to go. The Q Sheet is Robert's weekly barbecue newsletter. It's free, delivered right to your inbox every Sunday. What else do you have to do on Sunday other than to get all caught up on what's happening in the world of barbecue? And you can find them here on the show as well. Robert, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you.
You got it. There he is. Robert Moss. RobertFmoss.com. Dr. Robert F. Moss, of course. Fascinating barbecue history right there. Lamb and mutton, nothing more popular. And then, where'd it go? But Texas, in part, helping it make a comeback. And it appears that Katz's Deli is not...
Andrew, you are not
the longest continuously run barbecue smoke shop. All right, we will talk to you quickly about Primo cookers before we load in for the second hour. Key differences amongst some of the other ceramic cookers out there. First is the shape, while everything else is round. The Primo cooker is oval in shape. It's a patented oval design, offers true two-zone cooking. You have actually 60 cooking configurations that you can use when you really start to get going. Really, you're only limited by your imagination, but that two-zone cooking is what AmazingRibs.com loves about cookers and how they rate so high. So in this instance, you can bank all the coals over to the right side. You're going to have a void on the left side, so if you want to do a reverse sear, you put that meat on the no coal side, and then once it's reached that internal temperature that you want it at, you can kick it over to the right side where all the coals are and sear it off to get that color, get that sear, that Maillard reaction. And then configure it how else you want from there. Bunch of accessories coming out through the year. Made in the USA, precision-controlled manufacturing, highest quality ceramics that they're using in these cookers. One of the newest upgrades is the fact that they have a new lift hinge, which reduces force to lift the grill head by 70%. Precision-controlled top and bottom air, controlling easy and accurate settings each and every time. Upgrade kits are available wherever you get your Primo cooker. You can visit dealers to see all these improvements for yourself. PrimoGrill.com. Primo Ceramic Grill on Instagram and Primo Ceramic Grills on Facebook. And the website Primo Grill, singular, PrimoGrill.com. We're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
This segment brought to you by Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Dry, Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's funny. There's a Alexa just started chirping at me. Fireboard.com or 816-945-2232. That's right. All right, so we thank Robert Moss, robertfmoss.com. Sign up for the Q Sheet. And we also thank Ryan from Pits and Spits, talking about the Rendezvous. $1,200, 90 pounds, take it wherever you want. It is a pellet cooker, so you have that going for you. Sign up for the wait list and then get notified when it is ready. You can either buy it online if there's not a dealer near you, or if the dealer near you is going to house it, Go check it out there right in person. We are aligning for the second hour. Refresh libations. I will see you in a few minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.